Hello and welcome back. As always, my name is Lazar and today we're gonna be talking about the AKBolto Prime, probably my favorite secondary weapon in the game. Now I'm not gonna go into a whole heated debate of which are the best pair of pistols or which is the best secondary, because that is mostly a subjective and situational topic, but I will say that my guides are a bit more new player friendly, simply because there's a lot of information here that nobody wants to cover and I feel I should cover. So veteran players are advised to skip just a little bit ahead. And with that being said, we're just gonna simply jump right into the boltos, and I want to give you an overview of their base stats. Accuracy is 26.7, which is very good, huge critical chance at 36%, and a very nice multiplier of 2.8. Fire rate is 7, which is not bad but not perfect. Magazine is 40, which is more than enough, and reload is 1.3, which is okay. Riven disposition is 2 out of 5. Now Riven disposition will decide how powerful Riven mods will be for this specific weapons. You can get very powerful Riven mods depending on, again, how high the disposition is. If you don't have access yet to Riven mods, don't worry about it, simply progress through the story and you will eventually unlock them. Status is 14%, which is pretty bad. One of the reasons we're not gonna build the boltos for status, we're gonna build the boltos for crit. And the trigger is semi. Now this is the biggest drawback with the AKBoltos. It's a semi trigger, meaning you're gonna be spamming your left click until your finger bleeds, and that's a problem. Before going any further, you will see that I have a 60 mod capacity. That is simply because I have an Orokin catalyst installed. You can get these Orokin catalysts from alerts, invasions, very rarely however, and more often than not you're gonna be forced into paying 20 plat for this upgrade, and you need it in order to get the most you can out of weapons. Obviously it's straight up power. The last thing I want to mention is the fact that the boltos, my boltos and this build, will require you to forma 2 times. You can tell by the number above the star little thing. So again, the build requires you to forma twice through polarization. And with that being said, let's talk about fire rate on semi weapons, and specifically the AKBoltos. Normally, these weapons without anything on have a fire rate of this. And I'm spamming my left click as fast as I can. And that's it. That is the max fire rate I can get out of the boltos. If I put on something that will increase that, let's see, a very popular mod like Lethal Torrent, you will see a noticeable difference. Much better, much better. And now let's go even further than that and amplify the speed even further with what else? Gunslinger. This will add another 72 over the 60 we already have. And let's see the difference. See any difference? Yes, there is no noticeable difference between Lethal Torrent and Gunslinger, simply because when it comes to fire rate on semi weapons, there is a human factor, a human cap. Obviously this is gonna depend on person to person, and I recommend you guys test this out. The point is, I don't recommend overdoing it with fire rate on semi weapons. I see some players make this mistake. Lethal Torrent, the 60% from Lethal Torrent is more than enough. Now, there are a few mandatory mods when it comes to critical damage and critical chance pistols, which the AKBoltos are. First and foremost, mandatory mod, Hornet Strike. This is flat out damage, no point to talk about it. This is the first mod you should max out. It simply increases the damage by 220% fully maxed out. Next, like I said, this is a crit weapon, so let's add some more crit. Pistol Gambit, normal version. Again, this build will be affordable with mods that everybody can get, and it will still get the jump very well done. Pistol Gambit will add 120% extra critical chance, which means we get a total critical chance of 79.2. Now we have a lot of critical chance, let's amplify the critical damage with Target Cracker plus 60% extra critical damage. If you guys have primed versions of any of these mods, then go right on ahead and use your prime versions. I'm assuming this is a player that just came into the game and wants a decent build with things that are not impossible or very hard to get. The last mandatory mod is Barrel Diffusion, and what Barrel Diffusion does is add multi-shot plus 120%. In case you didn't know what multi-shot does, it fires additional projectile at the same time. So basically you click once, but your gun doesn't fire one bullet anymore, it fires 2, 3, 5, 1,000. Of course, multi-shot will be most effective on weapons such as shotguns, which fire a lot of projectiles. Now, since we are firing multiple projectiles, that means our status chance has gone up as well from 21.4 to 28.2, because again we are firing multiple projectiles. And that is it to the mandatory mods to the build. Next, what we're gonna do is add elemental damage. Elemental damage should always be added depending on circumstances. These are mods you're constantly gonna swap in and out depending on what encounter you wanna do. Grenier are heavily armored targets, and against heavily armored targets, ideally you want to use corrosive. Corrosive is the combination between electricity and toxin. Against Corpus faction, you want to use a gas build. Against the infested, you want to use heat or viral, but primarily heat. This is what I recommend against the infested. So let's assume we are fighting the Grenier, heavily armored targets. We're gonna make corrosive damage, and like I said before, we're gonna need electricity, so we're gonna add 90% mod convulsion, and we are going to need toxin as well, and we're gonna add 90% toxin through pathogen rounds. Now, when it comes to elemental damage on pistols, the 90% mods are not your only option, but for sure you have these mods. You also have 60/60 mods, such as Pistol Pestilence. Pistol Pestilence will give you 60% toxin and 60% status chance, and there's a 60/60 mods for all of the elements. Most of them easy to easy to obtain, except for the electricity version. The electricity version is called Jolt, and it gives you 60% electricity and 60% status chance. However, that one is only obtainable from Battery Kittier the Void Trader and is fairly expensive to buy through plat. At the most minimum is 80 plat. In any case, we are building the boltos for crit and crit damage. In this case, the 90% mods offer more benefit than the 60/60 mods. We have our final two slots, and it gets even more preference based at this point. What I recommend you guys do is Lethal Torrent. Now, Lethal Torrent, as you saw before, is an outstanding mod and a very popular mod. Not only does it give fire rate, but it gives, more importantly, extra multi-shot. So we're gonna put in Lethal Torrent. As for the final option, you have a little bit of headway again. You can further amplify your elemental damage with another 60/60 mod. For example, you can add Frost and have two elements, so corrosive and something else if you so desire. Or you can do what I like to do, something simple, and again a mod which is easy to obtain and affordable, Auger Pack. Now this will just add flat 90% extra damage. Just like the 90 mods, only this one is not elemental, is flat out, and you also have the added benefit of the set. That is one way to go. However, I'm gonna recommend you a different mod for your final choice. It's called Hydraulic Crosshairs. Now, unfortunately, you can no longer obtain this mod, but you can get it from the trade chat very cheaply, 10 plat maximum, if you're lucky 5. On headshot, plus 135% crit chance while aiming for 9 seconds, and that's gonna be a huge buff on a pair of crit pistols like the Boltos. So I recommend you guys grab this mod. It's a wonderful mod. Practically it's the pistol version of Argon Scope, only this one doesn't cost an arm and a leg. So highly recommend Hydraulic Crosshairs. If not, go for Auger Pact. And that's gonna be the build. Now let's test it out. We build corrosive damage against the Grenier. So we're gonna spawn in 6 heavy gunners level 100 and see what the Boltos can do. As you can see, she can shred absolutely wonderful through these targets. These are level 100 heavy gunners. There's a lot of armor here, and that's why the corrosive was necessary against them. And the Boltos do a pretty good job at tearing right through them, but we can do even better, even though you're not gonna meet level 100 heavy gunners just anywhere. But let's amplify it even more. Now, the reason why I chose Ember Prime is because she's sexy and because she doesn't have any buffs that will skew the test results. But let's take into account some Warframe buffs, and we're gonna pick up something even more sexy, Mirage Prime. Now, Mirage to me is a bit of a weapon specialist because of her 1 and her third ability. But that's not all we're gonna do. We're actually gonna go even further and get ourselves Pistol Amp. Now Pistol Amp is an aura, it gives this benefit to the entire party. Pistol damage is increased by 27%. It is not expensive to buy and it is farmable, so definitely if you wanna go the extra mile, you can go for Pistol Amp. And another thing, Arcane Velocity. Later on in the game, in case you haven't unlocked Arcanes yet, you will unlock them. They drop from the bosses on the plains of Cetus, the Eidolons. Now this one is only at rank 1 and it does this. On critical hit, which we do a lot of, 30% chance for plus 40% fire rate to pistols for 3 seconds. And with this arcane equip, we can get rid of Lethal Torrent. Yes, we're losing that multi-shot, but we no longer need that fire rate. The 40% from this will be more than enough to cap out my, well, click speed capacity. So we're gonna go into the Boltos. We're gonna remove Lethal Torrent and we're just gonna add some flat damage with Augur Pact. Again, this is a bit subjective, a lot subjective, simply because it depends on the person, but keep in mind that in a real gameplay scenario, you move around, you shoot, you try to hit stuff in the head, so that fire rate, not really. So let's try it out with her free ability active, which will give us a 260% buff to damage. As you can see, the fire rate is mostly the same, but of course Mirage will be tearing through these guys a whole lot more efficiently than Ember did, simply because of the buff. Can we do even better? Yes, you can do even better than that, but it's gonna require more resources on your part. Let's see what the Boltos can do with my primary build. Now my primary build includes an AKBolto Riven with crit, damage and minus zoom, which doesn't really matter all that much. A Riven as good as this is not exactly easy to obtain, but later on in the game you will get your hands on some Rivens. And if I switched out the normal target cracker for prime target cracker, and that's pretty much all there is to the difference. Let's spawn on those guys again. 6 heavy gunners of the Grenier, and let's see how fast we can go through them this time. Free ability up. We're not gonna activate the clones because they don't hit, they miss. So as you can see, the Boltos, the AKBoltos, are amazing weapons and can tear through enemies like there's no tomorrow. Now obviously this is not the only way you can build the Boltos, definitely not, and the topic with which is the best para pistol or which is the best secondary is a bit convoluted. To be honest, if I am to say something from an objective standpoint, the AKB Stilettos might be the best. However, do you prefer something more shotgunny? Do you want dual wielded hand shotguns? Then the AK Bronco Prime will be for you. The AK Lex Prime is like dual wielding Desert Eagles. It's an absolutely amazing weapon as well, and it's gonna come down to preference. But for me, my favorite sidearms, at least for now, are the AKBoltos. And well, that's gonna do it for now. Thank you guys for watching. Like, favorite, share and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you got any sorts of feedback for me or stuff like, hey, you should have done this or that and all whatnot, by all means leave it in the comment section down below. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye.